Hi, this is Chatterboxing in association with Lion Academy. I'm Sean, and I've got my mate Owen with me here again, as always.
Hello.
Hello, Owen. We're going to talk today about Chris Eubank Jr. and his ITV pay-per-view fight against Renoud Quinlan, I think his name is, the man who's got every boxing fan in the UK doing a Conor McGregor impression. And we're going to talk also about the way we think his career has been managed, and really where it goes from here. So first of all, what's your initial reaction to this fight being on pay-per-view? ITV pay-per-view. Very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very underwhelming start for ITV pay-per-view, isn't it?
It's like shopping in Next. There's nothing really good about it. I was watching an interview with Dana White, who's the UFC kingpin, and he knows his onions about pay-per-view. And what he said was, when you're putting on a pay-per-view fight or any kind of event, but pay-per-view more than anything, you're competing with the other things that guy's got to do or has the option to do on that Saturday night. So he said, don't go out with your missus, stay in, we've got a good night of fights on for you. That's what Eddie Hearn out on Saturday night. It wasn't the best, but it was good. It was stay-inable.
Yeah.
This is dog shit, it's not.
Yeah, well, it's quite strange from ITV as well. I'm not sure what their thinking is. If you're going to get into boxing, they've obviously got a history with it, but at the moment, pay-per-view in the UK has a very bad reputation. I mean, when you say to anyone in the pub, like, sort of pay-per-view, you think, fucking hell, Eddie Hearn again, like pay-per-view, Frankie Gaffin against Kell Brook, Nathan Cleverly against Tony Bellew. You know, just things that shouldn't be on pay-per-view. Yeah. So that's already in the kind of narrative out there. So when you're putting on Chris Eubank against someone who nobody's ever heard of, for a title that no one's ever heard of, on pay-per-view...
His record's 11-1.
Yeah, I think he beat Daniel Geale, didn't he? So yeah, like knockout. I mean, Daniel Geale, he's been knocked out twice recently. He's gone up now to super middleweight. It's a good win, but at the same time, he's not an established like super middleweight. Yeah, he's certainly
it's
not.
It's nowhere near pay-per-view worthy. It's nowhere near hyperbole. It's nowhere near a story that anyone cares to see or pay for. It's just.
So what are they thinking? I mean, do they just think that they know something that we don't? I mean, do they just think that they're a lot cleverer than everyone else? And for me personally, like, there are times when you have to go against the grain and you think, no, I know better than other people. But when you are in a position where literally everybody else thinks it's a bad idea, sometimes you have to look at that and think, yeah, maybe everyone else is right and this is actually a bad idea. Maybe there's a reason why everyone thinks this is a bad idea and I'm not quite as clever as I think I am. Because to me, that's what I think.
They can't. I don't know. I don't know if he's got people in his ear. Who's in this kid's ear? Because I don't know whether he's got. Is all come from above? People telling him, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. The apple didn't fall far from the tree, did it? Let's be honest. But he's got to know that there's very, very little chance of him succeeding in a money-making fight for this network at this level.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a joke, isn't it? I mean, no one knows who this bloke is. Pay-per-view has a bad reputation right now. You haven't fought for ages. You basically ducked like Tommy Langford. I mean, you can like call it what you want to call it, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
You ducked like Gennady Golovkin, effectively, and then, well, okay, I made a video before. It's one thing ducking Gennady Golovkin, it's another thing ducking Tommy Langford. I know disrespect to Tommy Langford, but do you know what I mean? He's not Gennady Golovkin. But when I made a video about this, when the Golovkin shenanigans went on, I said that he was actually in quite a good position if he played his cards right, because he'd got himself around the world associated with Golovkin, with the sort of top middleweight fight, Danny Jacobs, even another person that he ducked.
Yeah.
And he was in a conversation with people that really he had no right to be. He'd fought at British level, apart from when he fought Billy Joe Saunders and lost. But somehow he was up there. People were talking about as if Golovkin was even ducking him at one point, and that was how much the sort of hype around him was. He'd done nothing to deserve that. But he got that name, he got his name out there, and people were blaming it on his dad. So he had an opportunity to benefit from all the hype, all the promotion, but without actually having to back it up. So he could have then drawn a line under it and said, right, now I'm taking control. My dad's kind of a bit deluded. He doesn't need to spell it out, but that's what everyone would have filled in the gaps for him.
Yeah.
Everything else that happened so far is my dad's fault. I'm going to take all the benefit of having my name out there, but I'm not going to have to back it up. And now I'm going to develop my career properly, which I should have done in the first place, and start fighting people like Tommy Langford. He was on that right track, fighting people like Spike O'Sullivan, Nick Blackwell. He could have fought against Tommy Langford and then worked his way up.
Yeah.
But having a big name.
Yeah, but now he
didn't.
bad.
He didn't. He ducked the Tommy Langford fight for whatever reason. People can talk about like why he did that. He said that Tommy Langford was in danger. Basically, that it wasn't even fair that he fought because he was such a mismatch. I mean, take that however you want to take it. I mean, I take it how I take it. But
I take it like that's him with Golovkin.
Yeah, I mean, he's
the same difference.
He's deluded. He didn't fight Tommy Langford, and now he's fighting some Australian that nobody's heard of. So, is it a case of he just thinks that he's really clever and he's got some master plan that we're just too stupid to comprehend?
Possibly, but there's been many have tried and many have failed to go on their own. I'm not calling him Audley Harrison, but that's an example of a fighter who thought he was kind of bigger and better than the system. He thought his Olympic goal bought him the chance to do what he wanted.
Yeah.
But he failed. It fucked up because they couldn't make good fights. It's the bottom line of the sport that we watch.
Well, as well, the level of delusion in terms of how he sees himself. Eddie Hearn. Now, people can agree, disagree. Think that he's telling the 100% truth, 75, 50, none, whatever. Personally, I think I believe it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe it. He was saying that Chris Eubank and his team believe that he's on the same level in terms of popularity and his position within British boxing as Anthony Joshua.
They're on drugs.
What planet are they living on?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for you to think that you're on the same level as Anthony Joshua is beyond absurd. It's like me thinking that it was like us thinking we're on the same level as Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Probably a slight exaggeration, but
we're probably a bit better, if honest, if anything.
But in terms of our status, it's mental. Like whatever analogy you want to make, it's absolutely mental. So I just don't really know where this is going.
It's only going to hurt him in the long run. I don't think this bit of his career ends well. I think he doesn't want to have regrets. And the one thing that I do worry with Chris Eubank Jr., the way he fights, and I think he's a good, fun fighter to watch. I don't want to put him down. I want him to be on the air. I want him to be in big fights. I think he brings a lot to the table. But we don't want him to have 2 years of kind of inept shit fights, fighting once every 9-10 months on a pay-per-view bill for ITV. We want him in the big fights and the big nights, making really good entertainment for the fans.
I'm a big fan of Chris Eubank Jr. Yeah. To be honest, I like him, and I do think that he's just giving people ammunition, because even when anything he does now, people are really giving him loads of abuse. Do you remember when Kell Brook lost to Golovkin, they threw the towel in, and he had that comment saying we don't own towels? I mean, the reaction to that was massively disproportionate, and you could see everyone going mental, saying, "Oh, it's like despicable." It's like, I mean, it's not despicable, is it? It may be a little bit silly, and it may be a little bit like, "Oh, shut up, Chris, you mug." But it's certainly not despicable. But like the reaction that people were giving to him, a lot of people really dislike him, and you've got to say that it's his fault.
It reflects what you've been saying. Is he really out of touch? Yeah. Is he that far off? I think he is in that. If you're saying that kind of comment, to me it means I'd be thinking, this guy doesn't fucking get it. You don't say that now. Don't fucking, who's in his ear?
Well, I think everybody had just seen him just talk a big game, and then when it came down to it, he did nothing. He tried to blame it on Golovkin or blame it on Eddie Hearn, but anyone with a brain cell could see that it was basically his fault. and then, you know, he came out with that "we don't own tout." You're just sort of putting yourself in a silly position. But really, my point is that people, the overreaction of people, like saying as if he's, you know, some sort of scumbag, and he's, you know, he's not a scumbag. He's just kind of making sort of silly decisions, seemingly. But he's put himself into a position where he's very, very unpopular. Now, if he's trying to market that as being like the villain, the bad guy, you know, that's possibly a tactic, but it doesn't really seem to be working for me. He's burnt a lot of bridges. He's fighting now on ITV against, you know, to repeat myself, someone that nobody's ever heard of. So
it's doable, of course, to market yourself as the bad guy. You know, there's a big pantomime to boxing, but you're right. You know, you either need to be unbeatable, like a Floyd Mayweather, or you need to be in these good fights where people don't really give a shit in the end. You're, you know, a Ricardo Mayorga who's the bad guy, but he's always in good fights, so please come back again.
And he's gone up to super middleweight. I think this is a real wasted opportunity from ITV as well. Because if he's going to go up to super middleweight, he could fight James DeGale, he could fight George Groves, who else is there? Martin Murray, possibly. The big Callum Smith.
Yeah.
You know, these are big
Loads
fights.
of good fights.
But if you're going to go on pay-per-view to fight against that Reynald, whatever he's called, Quinlan, I mean, what's it going to be against James DeGale? Are we going to have to pay like sort of £500, you know, to watch the trailer for the fight?
I mean, the numbers will never lie, though. So if he goes his own way now, and he fights who he wants to fight, you know, whoever they are, no disrespect to them, but they're not going to be great because the money won't be there to pay the great people. It's just not in the pot. But if he wants to then switch, you know, as a super middleweight and say, you know, I'm back on the Eddie Hearn show, I'm in against Callum Smith. Eddie Hearn's got those figures. They're not invisible. Yeah. He's going to say, okay, this is what you're worth. He might as well be building his name under an Eddie Hearn guidance, under that real kind of professional guidance, the advice he probably needs, rather than the advice he's actually getting. That's my thing. I don't think it's going to benefit him when he gets. I think he should be a challenger around world title level. I think he's that talented, but
yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll see what happens to this. I can't see this being successful. I don't know how that's going to affect ITV and their boxing. To be honest, I'm quite bemused that they've started with a pay-per-view. I mean, they get money from adverts. I don't know why they needed to start with a pay-per-view. If they were going to start with a pay-per-view, at least have it, like, you know, for example, if they'd have got like Carl Frampton, they were talking with Carl Frampton apparently, if they'd have got Carl Frampton, Leo Santa Cruz, they could have put that potentially on pay-per-view. They don't even really need to with their adverts, the revenue they get from adverts. No. But they've just done for me a very, very...
naive.
Naive and very sort of greedy...
Who's in charge of that shit? You saw with BBC, they gave Audley Harrison, straight off the Olympic conveyor belt, 1 million up front. And after however many fights, they're like, this ain't working for the same reason. These are shit fights against no one good.
Yeah.
It's a nice idea, but they fucked it up because the person who did it wasn't probably a boxing person.
Yeah. So, well, let's see what happens. We're not trying to hate on Chris Eubank. This is just a reaction to it because, you know, it basically is what it is. And unless, as I say, he's some kind of evil genius and we're just a bunch of idiots like everyone else who looks at it. But it certainly looks to me like it's just one bad decision after another.
Yeah.
And it's just a complete mismanagement of a very, very talented young fighter.
I echo that. Good luck to him, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
So yeah, I mean, let us know what you think about this because, I mean, I'd like to hear something positive about it, and I'd like to be wrong. I'd like to see him come back and, you know, prove everybody wrong. But I just see this as he's going down the wrong path, and I think literally everything he does. In terms of public relations, he's just getting more and more people just, you know, bemused by his antics. You know, I mean, we're talking about him, I suppose, but yeah, his status really within British boxing is becoming regarded as more and more of a joke, from what I can see, which is unfortunate because he's a very talented fighter. I just think he's been very badly managed and poorly advised. But let us know what you think about it. Thank you very much, Owen.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.